I honestly believe that every time you do something antithetical to what you know you should be doing, a little piece of your soul dies. In fact, it has to, because if it didn't, you wouldn't be able to live with yourself for your own indiscretions. So you have one of two choices when you screw up. You can be a psychopath and pretend as if something didn't happen and dull your emotions and dull who you are as a human being, or you could acknowledge it and feel the guilt associated with it and then correct your behavior. Failure is a natural and inevitable part of life. It's not really a matter of if you will fail. It's a matter of when and how you will fail. And I think most importantly, what will you do in those moments of failure? Because at that time when you fail, whether it's something seemingly insignificant or something crucial and important to your well-being, what you do in that moment is what defines you as a man. So many men on social media and everywhere else, guys that don't know you essentially, will judge you and mock you and ridicule you and belittle you and put you down as you fail without a willingness to acknowledge their own failures in life. These are people that don't know you, don't know the nuances of your circumstances or situation, but there are other people who are deeply impacted by the mistakes that we make, whether it's small or major. We need to be able to correct our mistakes, fix our mistakes, and then drive on in confidence. Now, the reason I'm talking about this today is because I am met with so many men on a daily basis, whether it's in personal interactions or social media interactions or men inside of our Iron Council who talk with me about their own personal failures and what they should do to drive on and move forward with confidence in life. And I get it. It's difficult to move forward in confidence when you've had a setback, when you haven't performed the way that you think you should. So I want to share a quick little story. Again, this one is very, very insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but I think it will illustrate the point. I'm recording this on May 30th. This will release the first week of June. And I'm recording early because I'm going to be hunting in Hawaii next week with 5 other friends. We're hunting axis deer on the island of Molokai, which I've hunted for 5 or 6 years now. And as I was out today, as of the recording of this podcast, I was out shooting my bow and practicing and trying to dial things in. And I backed it up to about 50 yards, which has been about the maximum distance for my shots in Hawaii on axis deer. I backed it up to 50 yards. I made 5 really good shots, and those were all within, I would say, a 6 to 8 inch radius or diameter, I should probably say. 6 to 8 inch diameter on my archery target. And I thought to myself, this is going to be my last arrow of the day. I'd shot 20, 25 arrows or so. I thought to myself, this is going to be the last one of the day. And I rushed it and drew back, aimed, and sent it. And immediately, right as the release let go, I knew it was a bad shot. And I heard it clank off some metal, and I heard it peg itself into the tire of my neighbor's trailer. And I walked up there with trepidation and pulled the 5 arrows that I had shot into the target and walked over to the tire and was fairly confident that it was in the tire. And I walked up and sure enough, saw the arrow in the tire. Now, I know this is insignificant. I know it's going to cost me, 16, 18, 20 bucks for the arrow and $100 for the tire. Well, probably more for the tire now at this point, maybe a couple $100 with inflation, but it was an expensive miss. Really not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things, but it's really important that we address it because what we do in these moments is very crucial. And the first thing that we need to do, and this is a 3-part formula, whether it's you shoot your neighbor's tire with an arrow as you're practicing for a hunt, or you have a divorce, or you flop at work, maybe you drop the ball and really screw things up and hose other people over, or you took advantage of somebody, or you made a huge error or mistake in your own personal life. It's all the same. It's a principle, so it applies broadly. And there's really a 3-part formula to ensuring that when you mess up, that you address it properly. And the first thing that you need to do, guys, is you need to fix what you effed up. You have to fix it. I probably could have pulled the arrow from my neighbor's tire, and it's on an empty lot here next to my property. It's an empty lot. He's got some construction stuff out there. There's rocks and nails, and there's stuff out there. So him having a flat tire on his trailer would not be uncommon. And I probably could have pulled my arrow and likely got away with not ever bringing anything up and letting him deal with that. But that isn't how men deal with their situations. And I know it's tempting. And I know it's in these small moments, it's easier to do than in the big moments. But guys, when we mess up, we have to acknowledge that we screwed up. And we have to first and foremost make an attempt, a deliberate and intentional attempt to fix what we screwed up. If you broke something of your neighbor's like I did, then it's on you to pay for it. Like, we live in this society that, casts all this blame and fault and everything else, and can probably get out of something like that, if not through deceit, through the legal ramifications of it. I don't want to play that game because I want to be honest in my life, and I want to address my life with integrity. And I also believe that the way we do the small things is the way we do the big things. So if I would have neglected to take care of that tire, then what am I willing to do on the bigger things when there's even more at stake than paying $200 for a tire and replacing the $12, $15, $18 arrow that I broke? Guys, whenever you go wrong, the first step is always to make amends. And by the way, it's crucial that you do, because when you learn to make amends for the mistakes that you've made, you feel the weight, the burden of the consequence. And that's a good thing. Most people would say, that's not a good thing. I don't want to feel like that. No, you don't want to make those mistakes, but it's important that you feel the weight of the mistakes that you make, because if you don't, you're more likely to make those mistakes in the future. So when you mess up, whether it's you say something dumb to a coworker or to your wife, or you shoot your neighbor's tire with an arrow, or any number of things that you could be confronted with, the first step is always deal with it like a man, fix it because it wasn't yours to break or to mess up. Apologize where you can, make amends where you can, and do everything you can to make the other party whole. And I realize that not in every situation will you be able to do this, but if you can, you have a moral obligation and responsibility to do that. Yeah, I could have got away with it. I definitely could have. Nobody would have batted an eye. Nobody would have said anything. Nobody would have noticed. My neighbor would have had to pay for his own tire and fix it if he wanted to use that trailer. That isn't right. You know that isn't right. I know that isn't right. And so we need to address it accordingly. So again, number one is fix what you messed up. Number two, learn your lessons. All right? Like, own it. Be responsible for it. Don't shirk blame. Don't pass judgment or responsibility onto somebody else. Just say, no, I messed up. I screwed up. I made a bad shot. I didn't do what I set out to do. I took advantage of you. I screwed you over. I was selfish. Like, whatever the situation calls for, be honest about it. In this circumstance, I've even heard people say, well, maybe he shouldn't have had his trailer on the lot. That doesn't have anything to do with anything. What matters is that the trailer was on the lot, and I was the one who decided to shoot my bow at a target with a trailer behind it. Should it have been parked there? It should or should not have. Doesn't really matter. It's irrelevant. What matters is that he was legally able to park there, since that lot is his lot to park his stuff. He was gracious enough to let me use it, and I'm the one that shot the tire. How many times do you justify and rationalize your behavior, your poor performance? Well, they shouldn't have been this. They should have done that. They should have been aware. They should have this. The contract doesn't say that. The contract says this. That's all bullcrap, guys, and you know it. We can do better. If you're living by the letter of the law so that you can get away with poor performance, you're only shorting yourself. Yes, you are also shorting other people, but you're screwing yourself. You're not allowing yourself to learn the hard knocks, the hard lessons that need to be learned for you to improve. So when you screw up, whether it's something small and insignificant like a tire or something drastic and maybe even catastrophic, number one, own it. Number two, learn the lessons. What lessons need to be learned from that? For me, I went through the breakdown of my shot and I rushed it. And because I rushed it, I punched the trigger. If you guys are familiar with archery or even rifle shooting, marksmanship, like if you rush the shot and punch the trigger, you're probably not going to make a good shot. And that's what I did. I punched it. I rushed it. I said it was my last one, wanted to get it done. It was hot outside. I was ready to go inside and relax and just punched one and made a bad shot. That isn't on anybody else but me. So learn the lessons that need to be learned. For me, it's having more patience. It's being more methodical about what I do and being more deliberate and slowing things down. That's the lesson I need to learn. The lesson you may need to learn could be completely different, but that's the lesson I need to learn. And then number three, just get better. As they say, failure isn't final. Whatever you've done isn't final. It is not the end of your life. It is not the climax or pinnacle or apex of what you can create in this world. We've all fallen short. We've all screwed up. We've all screwed other people over. We've all taken advantage of people. We've all made dumb decisions. That's not really the question. The question is whether or not you're willing to acknowledge it and then improve your life. Okay, so you weren't a great husband. You should have been, but you weren't. So what can you do about it in the next relationship that you have? You haven't always shown up as a father. Okay, you should have, but you didn't. So what can you do now to make yourself a better father, the father that your children need? You haven't always come through at work with your obligations and responsibilities from a professional standpoint. Okay, well, you should have, but you didn't. So what can you do now to ensure that from this day forward, you are the best employee that anybody has ever hired? You aren't always showing up the way that you need to show up with regards to your own physical health and well-being. So what can you do right now to ensure that's the case? Every decision, every day, every minute, every hour, we're confronted with all sorts of choices and opportunities to do the right thing or to do the wrong thing. And sometimes it is as black and white as that. Do the right thing. Fix what you messed up. Learn the lessons that need to be learned and improve your life. And by the way, this is the exact same formula for getting over things. How many of you reach out and say, how do I get over my ex-wife? This is how. Tell her you're sorry. Write her a letter. Tell her what you should have done. Maybe try to start treating her right now. If it's a former employer that you screwed over, reach out to the employer. Try to make amends. If you stole from somebody, give them the money back. If you don't have the money, volunteer to help them in some way where it's adequately compensated for what you took from them. It's not hard. It's not complex. It's not complicated. And inevitably, I'm going to hear people say, well, in my situation. No, not in your situation. That's a rationalization. That's a justification. And every time you try to take that path of least resistance when it comes to doing what's right, a little piece of your soul dies. And that isn't hyperbole, by the way. I honestly believe that every time you do something antithetical to what you know you should be doing, a little piece of your soul dies. In fact, it has to. Because if it didn't, you wouldn't be able to live with yourself for your own indiscretions. So you have one of two choices when you screw up. You can be a psychopath and pretend as if something didn't happen and dull your emotions and dull who you are as a human being, or you could acknowledge it and feel the guilt associated with it and then correct your behavior. And that's point number two. Learn the lessons. What can you extrapolate? What can you learn? What can you take away from this experience? How will this negative experience serve you in the future? And then point number three is to improve, to get better. That's it. I don't have anything other than that. No grand, formula, no deep thoughts or pontifications on all the intricacies and exceptions to the rule. It's really just that simple. Always do the right thing. When you mess up or you screw somebody over, you take advantage or you mess with their life, fix it. Learn what lessons you need to learn, internalize and absorb those lessons, and then improve your life for the betterment of yourself and the betterment of the people that you have an obligation and responsibility for. So for me, spending a little time this afternoon, pulling a trailer tire off a trailer. My neighbor happens to be traveling abroad. I believe he's in Europe right now. When he gets back, I'll probably shoot him a text here this afternoon and tell him what happened. And he's a good neighbor because I'm a good neighbor. I'm not going to take advantage of him. He's not going to take advantage of me. So I'm going to shoot him a text, tell him what happened. I'm not going to put it on him. I'm going to go ahead and take the tire off, go ahead and bring it into the tire shop, get a new tire, patch the one if I can, get a new tire if I have to, slap the tire back on there, do everything right. And that way, it's all taken care of and he doesn't have to worry about something that he didn't do. And then I'm just going to be a better shot. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. As of right now, you're listening to this on Friday. I am hunting in Hawaii, so hopefully I have already shot 1 or 2 axis deer at this point. If not, hopefully today is the day because this is the last day that I'll be hunting on the island of Molokai in Hawaii. And so we'll see if we can make it happen. Anyways, guys, kind of a short one for you today, but let's be men of honor. Let's be men of integrity. Let's be men of class. Let's just do the right thing, regardless of whether or not people are looking. And isn't that the definition of character? It's what you do in those moments when nobody is looking. I could have got away with this. You can get away with a lot of different things, but that's not really the metric of success. The metric is whether or not you did the right thing. And we all have great and tremendous opportunities to do the right thing. All right, guys. I'll be back next week for an interview. Until then, go out there, take action, be a man of integrity, and become the man you are meant to be.